We're back with some Dynasty deep stashes. As always, guys, if you like Dynasty content, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. It is Sunday, August 3rd. The first preseason game has happened. We are just a few days away from everyone playing their first preseason game. So it's that time of year, man. It's time to start stashing some guys, especially guys that you think could have a chance to break out over the next several weeks as we lead up into the season. Now, if you know this channel, you guys know that we like to get really, really deep on some of these players. We don't give you surface level guys for the most part. There's a couple guys in here that I don't think are out there, but we're looking for guys that are pretty widely available. And Keandre, Lambert, Smith, at least was pretty widely available when I first started thinking about making this video before the preseason game. Maybe he got picked up in a few places because he caught a couple touchdowns, but by all means, he's kind of impressing people, not just in the game, but just at practice and things like that. He was drafted in the 5th round. He's a good, pretty tall receiver. He's 6'1" type of receiver. And he runs pretty well at a 4.37. So Chargers are in an interesting situation where, you have guys like, you have Ladd McConkey who's really established and has his kind of role in the offense. But then beyond that, we don't know for sure what it's going to look like. We still have Quentin Johnston there that I think will have a role, rookie Trey Harris. And then beyond that, it gets really murky. Darius Davis is more of a return specialist. Jalen Reagor, we know who he is. Brendan Rice, Jalen Johnson, Des Fitzpatrick, a lot of guys that you might not even know a whole lot about. So really beyond Ladd, it's a pretty murky situation. So a guy like Keandre Lambert Smith could move his way up into the wide receiver 4 spot, be that next player, maybe even the wide receiver 3 spot. So I would definitely be stashing him just to see how he progresses over the rest of the training camp and preseason. Jared Wiley for the Chiefs. Now, Jared Wiley was drafted last year by the Chiefs in the 4th round. In the 4th round. Didn't really do anything. He had a ACL injury that he got in practice, right? So I know I don't think he's fully back yet. I don't think he's fully back yet. He's still kind of recovering from it, but because he tore his ACL in November. But, he's a guy that a lot of people are saying, okay, we like the underlying stuff. We like the raw athletic talent of him. You got, Travis Kelce getting older. I know Noah Gray is there, but does Jared Wiley, establish himself as the tight end 3? And then you're looking at a guy that what if one of those other 2 guys gets hurt, starts to flash, or, next year can kind of take over and maybe take on a bigger role if Kelce really does retire. Jarrett Stidum on the your Denver Broncos. Couldn't really find a good one for the Denver Broncos, to be honest. That's why he was kind of almost a default. I usually default to, backup quarterbacks that I don't think are really rostered that much because there's not much out there in terms of wide receivers and tight ends, in my opinion. But Jarrett Stidham, he's come in certain games. He's shown that he can put up numbers when he needs to. So he's the QB2 for the Denver Broncos. Their QB3 is Sam Ellinger. I forget how to say it. Ellinger, I think it is. And, I don't think Ellinger has any type of, he's not going to compete against Jarrett Stidham at all, in my opinion. So last time we saw Jarrett Stidham, he played, I believe, last time we saw him significantly playing and starting in games was the end of 2023. But he was decent. He threw for basically averaged about 250 yards and a touchdown per game. That's solid numbers. And if something happens to Bo Nix, you're going to rely on him. A few years ago, back in 2022, he had that big game. This is when he was with the Raiders. He had that big game against the 49ers, threw for 365 yards and 3 touchdowns. So we've seen him be successful before. And then Sincere McCormick on here. I feel like Sincere McCormick has been a little bit forgotten for the most part. And I get why, because of the Ashton Genty signing, but they still need depth at the position. It's not going to be 100% Ashton Jeanty. Now, do I think any other Raiders running back is really going to make an impact this year if Jeanty is healthy? I don't. But you look behind Ashton Jeanty and you have Raheem Mostert, who is up there in age now. He just turned 33 years old earlier this year. And he had a significant injury history. That was kind of his MO before he had his big season. It's just that the guy couldn't stay healthy, missed time last year as well. I don't really necessarily see, I could see Sincere McCormick easily being the RB2 for this team. Now, he's probably rostered on a lot of teams, but if he's not, I would go out there and potentially stash him. Will Howard, quarterback for the Steelers. This is another guy that I think a lot of people do have on their teams just because, rookie drafts are happening. Aaron Rodgers hadn't signed yet. This team, I think at that point, the Pittsburgh Steelers at their quarterback spot, they had Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. That's all they had. And so people are saying, okay, well, I'm going to draft Will Howard or pick him up after waivers, after rookie drafts and stuff like that. But in case he's out there, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers, who the issue with older quarterbacks is staying healthy. Maybe he gets beat up and misses some time. Maybe Mason Rudolph they don't want to turn to. So Will Howard, someone that I think a lot of people like some things about him. He's a long shot to ever be anything besides just a backup, but I think he has some traits like a Jarrett Stidham to where if he comes in for a couple of games, he can give you, that 250, right? 250 passing yards, which, we're looking at 10 points there and a touchdown. You're looking at 14 to 16 points, depending on what formats you play in. Jermaine Burton, again, another guy that I don't think is out there a lot on these waiver wires, but in case he is, I would definitely be stashing him because I do think they want to make Jermaine Burton a thing. It was just a lot of other things came up. There was some off the field stuff that they were dealing with, and he was a rookie as well. Sometimes it takes rookies a while to develop, but man, I do think they want to make Jermaine Burton a thing on this team and have just another layer to their passing offense that beyond, Jamar Chase, Higgins, Gesicki, the tight end, Yoshi Boss, the running backs and stuff like that. So I would go out and still be stashing Jermaine Burton. Seems like he's having a good camp. Go out and grab him if you can. Jamari Thrash for the Cleveland Browns. And this is just because this is another wide receiver room where there's a lot of question marks beyond the number one guy. We have Jerry Jeudy established. I think Jerry Jeudy's going to have a very good year. Then we have Cedric Tillman, who I think is going to be a solid wide receiver 2/3 for the Browns. But we have to be realistic with ourselves and say, okay, I know when we think Cedric Tillman, we think, oh my God, he was amazing. Then you go back and look, it's like, okay, he had 3 really good games and then not much else last year. He had that 3-week stretch in the middle of the season, 81 yards, 99 yards, 75 yards, caught 3 touchdowns over those 3 weeks where he was good. And then he wasn't that great the next 2 games, and then he got hurt, missed the rest of the season. He's basically had in his career where he was drafted in 2023. So we're talking about 2 years now. He's had a 3-week stretch, and that's it. We have to be realistic there. Then you have Deontay Johnson. We don't even know what Deontay Johnson is at this point. He's been bouncing around teams. Is he a head case? I don't know, right? I don't really know. And then you have David Bell, who's done nothing since being drafted in 2022. David Bell has a total of 41 catches, and he caught 3 last year. I think he may have gotten hurt. David Bell hasn't done anything. He was a former 3rd-round pick, but again, he's going into his 4th season. Jamari Thrash, DeAndre Carter, who's been in the league forever, a whole lot of question marks. So I think a guy like Jamari Thrash could potentially carve out a role for the Cleveland Browns because it's open there. It's wide open. So Jamari Thrash, 5th-round pick in 2024. He's a little bit more of that gadget player, can kind of do it all, movable piece, take screens, pop passes, shorter routes. But there's room for someone on this team to kind of take and step up and be a significant threat. I know we have David Njoku, who's probably the wide receiver 2 on the team, but still, we need wide receiver depth. I kind of like Jamari Thrash and throwing him on my team. Rashin Ali, if you guys follow this channel, you guys know I loved Rashin Ali last year. And my logic last year for Rashin Ali was simply look at who they have behind Derrick Henry, right? You have Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell. It was Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell. Those were the guys that were behind Derrick Henry last year, really. Now, Keaton Mitchell also didn't start off the season. He didn't start off the season really at all. So it was really just Henry and Justice Hill. My thinking is if Derrick Henry, I think Justice Hill has his role for this team, and I don't think if Derrick Henry gets hurt, that Justice Hill is going to start getting 15 carries. I feel the same way kind of about Keaton Mitchell, although he has a better chance. Rashin Ali has a little bit better build, in my opinion, to kind of be that guy to take, 10 to 15 carries on early down type of work. They didn't really bring in anyone else in the offseason, so they're kind of running it back with Henry, Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell, and Rashin Ali. I still would stash him, just kind of hold him and see what happens during training camp. Efton Chisum II. I need to let you guys know that I made a video, a Dynasty deep stash video. I like to make these Dynasty deep stash videos about these guys who are mostly undrafted or drafted like on day 3, late in day 3 of the NFL draft. And I made one on Efton Chisum III. This was all the way back in like May, I believe, and saying, hey, I kind of like this guy. Like I like his ability to potentially get on the field. He played at college at Eastern Washington. So he was playing at a Division I believe Eastern Washington is, but an FCS school. And so, he was playing lower level competition. No one knew who the hell the guy was, but he put up numbers. And I think he could just have a role for this team. I've been seeing training camp clips coming out and all of that, and looking like pretty good for Efton Chisum. By the way, I put the second there. It should be the third. My apologies there, but I know people are going to make like the Julian Edelman comps, but I just think it's more of, hey, this is another wide receiver room that there's a lot of question marks. I think there's a lot of potential, a lot more potential than we're giving credit for, with guys like Diggs, Douglas, Kyle Williams, Mac Hollins, but there's also a lot of question marks that come with it. So I'm scooping up Efton Chisum the third for sure. Isaiah Davis is another guy. Now, I did hear he's the running back. He's, the RB3 for the Jets. I did hear that Braylon Allen may have been he was full go at practice on Saturday, it looks like. So he was back at practice. I know he got a little beat up. And apparently Braylon Allen's been looking really, really good. I've always liked Isaiah Davis actually a little bit more than Braylon Allen, mostly because of the value, right? Everyone was taking Braylon Allen in like the second round of rookie drafts, whereas I was able to get Isaiah Davis on the waiver wire. And I thought, hey, this is a guy who was drafted in the 5th round. I know Braylon Allen was drafted in the 4th, Isaiah Davis in the 5th. And it kind of played out last year when Breece Hall missed the 1 or 2 games. We all thought, okay, Braylon Allen's going to smash. Actually, Isaiah Davis was just a little bit better in those games, if I remember correctly. I know they played more of a split, and Isaiah Davis had, I think, more production there. So I still like Isaiah Davis, especially on this team where we expect them to run multiple running backs. Is it going to be Braylon Allen as the RB2? Probably a better chance, but who knows? Maybe Isaiah Davis is someone who also is looking good and competes for that RB2 role. We'll see as training camp progresses here. Julian Hill is someone here that I think we should be going out and picking up personally. I've been talking about Julian Hill. I do a waiver wire show for Dynasty, and this is more for deep Dynasty stuff. Julian Hill was on that waiver wire show every single week. I don't think a lot of people realize just like how much Julian Hill, a lot of people don't even know who Julian Hill is. He's going into his 3rd year. He was an undrafted rookie out of Campbell, which is a smaller school, I believe an FCS school as well. Kind of big athletic guy, 6'4", 250, can move, more of a receiving guy, but we knew it was going to take time for him to kind of learn the Dolphins playbook, and there's a lot, the tight ends and fullbacks do a lot in the Dolphins offense. So, but now we're looking at a situation, and again, I don't think people realize Julian Hill last year played 47.7% of the Dolphins snaps last year in the games he played. He missed one game. He played in 16 games last year, and he played in over 47, almost 48% of the snaps, almost half their snaps last year. Julian Hill was out there. And I don't think people realize that. But why do I bring this all up? Well, the reason I was bringing it up because, look at what Jonnu Smith was doing last year for the Dolphins. And I said, hey, if something happens, Julian Hill is going to be next in line, in my opinion. That doesn't really change, except now we're looking at Darren Waller being the next guy up. And Darren Waller, who hasn't played football for a couple of years, or he missed last season. What was Darren Waller's issue kind of at the end of his career there, or kind of throughout his whole career, was staying healthy. Darren Waller hasn't played a healthy season since 2020. He missed time in 2021, missed time in 2022, missed time in 2023, and significant time, 4 or 5 games at least, and then didn't play last year. I'm really liking Julian Hill and stashing him on these deeper leagues because, you're looking at a guy who's playing behind an older player who took a year off and is proven to be injury prone. I think Julian Hill can have a good season. I'm definitely stashing him. Elijah Moore, this is another one that he's probably still rostered just because it takes a long time, especially in deeper leagues. It takes a long time for people to move off of guys, especially guys who have flashed at times, or former second-round picks. I think I just got an update earlier that Khalil Shakir is week to week, I believe it was. Week to week with a high ankle sprain. And so that's, more in the favor of Elijah Moore. This is kind of like Elijah Moore's last chance, really. It really is his last chance. So, again, kind of an open-ish wide receiver room. You have a lot of questions like Khalil Shakir, I think is a good player. Keon Coleman, let's see. Joshua Palmer, he's a solid wide receiver 3 or 4. Curtis Samuel, Laviska Shenault, just a bunch of guys, right? I kind of like Elijah Moore, especially if Khalil Shakir is going to miss some time. I kind of like scooping up Elijah Moore and just seeing what he does with the Buffalo Bills this year. Riley Leonard, quarterback for the Colts. Another team where I couldn't really find too much, if I'm being completely honest. So I kind of defaulted to the QB3 here because obviously the QB1, QB2 are already rostered in Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. Riley Leonard, again, he's another guy that, he had some people during the pre-draft process. They said they had some things that he liked. They liked the size and things like that. They like his mobility. He could run the ball. He almost rushed for 1,000 yards. He rushed for over 900 yards last year at Notre Dame. That's pretty impressive for a quarterback in college. Because again, I mention this all the time. Sacks account for minus rushing yards. So you're getting over 900 yards. That's pretty damn impressive. So he's a guy that I think if Anthony Richardson doesn't work out and Daniel Jones both those guys don't work out, Riley Leonard could come in, run a similar style of offense, and maybe be successful. Who knows? I mean, he'll definitely bump in value as soon as that happens. So Riley Leonard, Cleo Mullings. Cleo Mullings, I've been talking about a lot for the Tennessee Titans. Cleo Mullings is a converted, I think he was running back to linebacker, back to running back in college. I think that's how it went. So his development kind of got a little screwed up, if I'm being, completely honest here. It wasn't the greatest, moving from position to another position back to the same position. He did have a solid year in college this last year, really his only year of significant production for Michigan. Put up almost 950 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, almost nothing in the passing game. But he's a big back. And the reason why I like him is because, one, I think there's a spot open for the RB3 for the Titans. Most people don't even know who the RB3 for the Titans is. It's Julius Chestnut. Obviously, you have Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, but I think Mullings could beat out Chestnut. Depends on special teams, but you would assume a former linebacker will be pretty good on special teams. So I think very good chance he makes the team. Very good chance he's the RB3. And there's a chance that they use him more as the RB2 because it feels a little bit like Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears are a bit redundant, right? Like they're a little bit like very similar style, smaller backs who are good at catching the ball, more elusive than powerful type of players. And maybe they need a guy like Cleo Mullings to come in at the goal line or short yardage or early down stuff and just kind of smash the middle, smash the line type of thing. So I really like Cleo Mullings and stashing him because I look for opportunity more than anything. Cade Stover for the Texans. Again, Texans kind of another team where I'm not super excited about anyone stashing necessarily. I've been talking about Cade Stover. He was always on the waiver wire show last year. He had like a couple of games where he flashed last year. He's going into his second year, former 4th round pick, former teammate of CJ Stroud. So there's a lot of things like, narratives that you can build around him, but he's another guy. He was at least getting on the field. He kind of moved up to, he wasn't playing too much, 25% of the snaps to 35% to, he was kind of playing 40 to 50% of the snaps there for the rest of the season from like about week 6 on. Dalton Schultz, if something happens to him, who's behind him? It's Brevin Jordan. I think we've kind of seen what we've seen from Brevin Jordan. Maybe like he's going into his 5th year. And so I just think if something happens to Dalton Schultz, I think even though Cade Stover is maybe the tight end 3, that he could bump up to being the tight end 1 for fantasy purposes, being the main receiving guy. And then finishing off here with Lakeith Allen. I think it's Lakeith Allen. And he is the 7th round pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, I think a lot of people drafted Lakeith Allen just because it's like, oh, Jacksonville, maybe they're going to get rid of ETN and take Bigsby. There's a decent chance that Allen doesn't, he just finds his way on the practice squad because I think for sure I would be very shocked if ETN, Bigsby, and Tootin are not on the active roster. Then you'll probably throw it. It depends on what Allen can do in the special teams. I know they have like a guy like Keelan Robinson, who's a return specialist. Maybe they use him. So I would be surprised if he made the active roster, but maybe a guy to stash just to see what happens. That's all I have for you guys. NFC is for tomorrow or in the next video, NFC. So appreciate you all, and I hope to see you guys all in the next video.